as well just put Steve Wellings' name in the titles at this point. It's Danny Flexen here for Seconds Out with the latest edition of SO Live. Steve Wellings, as I've just mentioned, delighted that you've joined us once again. You've obviously not got a lot going on in your life, I take it, because you're here to help us out for 3 weeks in a row now. But Steve, we do appreciate it, mate. How's your week been? How's things going?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm okay. Hopefully everybody at home's okay as well, and you, Danny, and I'm sure everyone's sick of the sight of me. I know I am.
Never, Steve, never. Especially not when we need you to fill this slot. But yeah, we are SO Live, most interactive show on boxing YouTube. Please give us a thumbs up. I'm sure Thunder Road will be reminding you, a loyal compadre in the live chat. Get your questions and comments in. A lot of them hopefully will be read out on air. Today we're going to be predominantly talking about the Day of Reckoning, the huge Saudi show for in the middle of the never-ending, seemingly, Riyadh season, which is on Saturday night. But yeah, do give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and give us your comments. But Steve, we're going to start off talking about, you might see the slightly witty headline there, hard work, medication. A little takeoff of Floyd Mayweather's famous phrase, but referring, of course, to Jarrell Big Baby Miller. Got no beef with Miller. There's definitely no enhanced beef. But he is a nice guy, but one with a checkered history. And he's coming to Saudi to fight Daniel Dubois, who's himself coming off that creditable performance against Alexander Usyk. I don't buy the whole low blow controversy, but did put in a good shift. It seems a very risky fight for Dubois, certainly on the surface. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I think it is a risky fight, actually. I think it's probably the most intriguing fight on the card for me. It has the potential to be an exciting fight. I think it's going to be very competitive. There's so many questions to be answered. How will Dubois' power impact upon Jarrell Miller? If he knocks a bit of early stuffing out of him, then things could get pretty interesting. As you said, he's a big old lump. He's durable. He can soak up punishment. He can keep on going. He will be trying to get into Daniel Dubois' head.
Miller, and we do want your thoughts on it as well. It's a weird one for Dubois because now he's at that kind of top world level from fighting Usyk in a gallant defeat. He can't really go back to some of the, let's face it, tomato cans he was fighting on the way to that, punishing defeat to Joe Joyce. You can't bring over the Japanese champion or the Jamaican champion anymore. But the public just aren't going to buy it. He's in a certain position now. So Big Baby Miller, I guess, is a calculated risk. He's not a big one-punch hitter, or certainly not since what we alluded to, the failed drug test, Myriad, in the past. But he does bring a lot of work rate, a lot of pressure. He's still got an unbeaten record. So there is a certain cachet in beating him. There's a certain amount of credit Dubois will be due, and it keeps him up and around that world level mix when the titles at heavyweight inevitably become fragmented once again. But I saw when the fight was first announced, and this may have changed since, I saw that Jarrell Miller was 6-1 to win the fight. Not knockout or points, just overall 6-1 to win. And that seems ridiculous. To me, this is a 50-50 fight. Daniel Dubois doesn't have a win on his record that's better than any win on Jarrell Miller's record. You could argue that Jarrell Miller has a better record in terms of the victories. Dubois is a big favourite predominantly because he gave Joe Joyce a good fight and then he gave Alexander Usyk a good fight, not for any of the wins on his ledger. And there are still big question marks around Dubois and his mentality. A lot of people felt that he's Sonny Edwards at the weekend just gone. You had he got off the deck against Kevin Lorena. Now that answered some of the questions mentally, but then brought some more up in that he was dropped heavily by a cruiserweight and then obviously suffered that injury. And then the most recent fight against Usyk, it did seem like mentally he kind of waned and maybe even gave in after that contentious knockdown / low blow. And just seemed to kind of, after that, it seemed to take the wind out of his sails, I think it's fair to say. So a lot of questions still to be answered. And similar with Jarrell Miller, he's looked okay, not exactly a streaking, exciting contender since those drug bans. Has he still got something to offer as a clean athlete? I hope he does in a way because he is a genuinely nice guy from when I've spoken to him. And I know he's got his own explanations for the stuff that's gone on in the past. But there's a lot of question marks surrounding both guys. And I think this could be the fight of the night. Let me just have a look on the chat. Yeah, we've got a bunch of comments now. A few good evening. Good evening, Richard Cameron. Yes, thanks, Thunder Road, for your continued support. Timo Hoffman, again, probably not the heavyweight. I once saw a Timo Hoffman show where he got serenaded into the ring by a brass band. But hopefully it's that Timo Hoffman, but I have my doubts. Miller, too stationary body and heads cause Dubois major problems. Interesting. Yeah, but Joe Joyce isn't exactly known for his slick upper body movement, is he? No offense, Joe, if you're watching. Gerard says, if Parker wins and Joshua too, will we get that rematch? And who do you think will win and why? I don't think Parker beats Wilder. We can get Steve's take in a second, Gerard. I think Joshua, I'm not sure he comes through Vallin either. We might get the fight that maybe not many people want in Parker Vallin. You never know. But I think if they were both to win, I'd still back Joshua to beat Parker. I know Parker's making strides under Andy Lee and his style's changed, but I think Joshua, at this point of his career, is kind of win or bust. I don't want to kind of give away my answer to the poll would be, but yeah, I think I'd fancy Joshua, maybe in a more explosive fashion this time around. But Steve, what do you think? If Parker were to beat Wilder, which would be a big upset, and Joshua were to get through Vallin, Parker-Joshua rematch, not one people are crying out for, except for maybe Parker. How would you see that going?
Yeah, I don't think anybody wants to see that, to be honest. It's all set up, isn't it, for Joshua to do his business and for Wilder to do his as well. And I don't think anybody wants to see the Joshua Parker rematch. I haven't watched it recently. I remember it at the time. There was a lot of hugging, a lot of holding. It wasn't too pleasing on the eye, unfortunately. So yeah, let's hope Wilder wins and Joshua wins for the sake of moving on. And no disrespect to Vallin and Parker. Obviously, it's life changing money and events for them. But yeah, I don't think anybody wants to see that rematch.
Bojka says, Filip Hrgovic, Croatian pride worldwide. I mean, he's not on the show, but yeah, appreciate that. Always time for Filip Hrgovic. Timo Hoffman follows up saying, Dubois' worst performances have been against people who don't stand in front of him. Yeah, I suppose in the fight with Joyce did employ a lot more lateral movement than we're used to seeing from him, so there is that. Yeah, I mean, I can understand why they might think stylistically Miller is tailor-made. Skeng says the opponents they are doing fight this coming event is going to be 80% for Wilder and 90% for Joshua, but it can be up about the Joshua fight in due course. And 80% for Wilder, I'm not going to say, I think maybe 70 for Wilder and 55 for Joshua. I think I'll give Vallin a real chance of the upset. Horseman quadruple for Horsey says, do you think Big Baby could be stopped early from his come forward style suiting Daniel, and with him being a puncher stopping Baby early doors? I could see that happening. I could see Baby walking onto one. Why have I got into the habit of calling him Baby now? That's your fault, Horseman Horsey. Horseman Horsey. God. We've got a flood of great nicknames tonight. Yeah, Big Baby. Yeah, he could come forward and get walloped, but I don't know. Has he got a good chin? He's a big fella. It might take a few meaty shots from Triple D to get rid of him, but we shall see. Adam Hurley says, this is ridiculous. Not really sure what he means there, but never mind. Thunder Road says, computer old beef with Jarrell Miller. That's kind of what I was getting at. Thank you, Thunder Road, for explaining my joke for me. Timo Hoffman again. Frank wouldn't put Dubois in a tough fight after lobbying to have him ranked higher in the latest WBA convention. I don't doubt for a second they think it's going to be a relatively easy night's work for Dubois. I'm just saying they might be wrong. Horseman again, easiest fight of the night. Who would you say, as it's common knowledge on the forums, lads? Easiest fight of the night. I mean, the easiest fight to call. Is that what you mean? You know, you've got those two British guys going up against world champions, where we're thinking we're not sure how they got those. Well, we know how they got the chances, but we're not sure they've got much of a shot in the ring against Dimitri Bivol and Jai Opetaia. I'd say they're much of a muchness. No disrespect to either of those guys who I've got a lot of time for Lyndon Arthur and Ellis Zorro, but I don't give them either of them much of a chance of pulling off the upset. What about you, Steve?
No, I don't think so. Bivol against Arthur could go similar to the way Bivol Craig Richards went, I feel. Zorro, I haven't seen a great deal of him, but it's going to be tough against that Opetaia. He looks the business, and the way he went through Maris Bradis and the broken jaw and everything, and he just puts people to the sword. I think, I don't want to jump ahead of ourselves, but just while it's in my head, the easiest fight of the night, I would say, probably Hrgovic Dimori, was probably the one out of all of them that were listed, I would say. But Zorro, yeah, it's going to be tough to see his chances out of the two that you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean it is a tough one. Thunder Rose says Jai versus Zorro will be easiest. Timo Hoffman says Croat's getting cobra'd in response to our Philip Hergovich support from earlier. Horseman Horsey says, do you think Fury will attend with his holiday being close? I think he'll be there. I'd be surprised if he's not. You know, he's very much involved with Turkey Al Sheikh and Frank Warren, of course, who seems to be the lead promoter on the event. So I'd be surprised if he's not there. Gerard, if Parker wins and Tyson wins his fight in February, would we ever see the mates fight? I don't think so. Parker said before he thinks there's other routes he can go down. I don't see him fighting Tyson. And I think it'd be like a spar. You know, I think it'd make Tyson Derek Chisora 3 look like a war. So it's not something I'd be kind of gagging to see. Let's move on. We've already got the poll up about Joshua, but the next fight we're going to talk about is, for some people, the most intriguing fight on the card, and I'm not one of them in this case, unfortunately. But Deontay Wilder against Joseph Parker. It's an interesting one because a lot of people seem to think that Joseph Parker's improving at a rate of knots recently since he's joined up with Andy Lee. Because I know in his last fight, you know, he looked great. That is true, but the level of opposition was far lower than we're used to seeing Parker fight in recent years. Did that flatter him, or did it give us a glimpse of the type of fighter he's evolving into under Andy Lee? He's going up against someone who you can never count out until the very last minute of the fight, unless you've got the miraculous recuperative powers of a Tyson Fury in Deontay Wilder. I think it's evened up a bit by the fact that Wilder's been so inactive. And his behaviour on podcasts and quoted comments seems quite erratic, typically so, you might say. But I just find it hard to imagine Joseph Parker outboxing Deontay Wilder for 12 rounds without getting hurt himself. And I think if he's hurt, he'll get finished. But Steve, what's your take on Wilder Parker?
Yeah, pretty similar to you actually. I was trying to think as to when I first became aware of Parker, and I think it was way back about 2016 when he fought Carlos Takam. Sky Sports showed that one, and some of the issues he had then. I think he still has now. I'm not sure he's completely ironed them out, and as you said, improving at a rate of knots. I'm not really sure about that. That said, Wilder has been very inactive. I know he had the sort of barely 3 minutes against Robert Helenius. Before that, it was way back a couple of years since he was put to the test. He's 38 years of age now. He's had a lot of fights. You've got to tip over the edge at some point, and I wonder if Parker can take him past the 5th or 6th round. Things could get interesting, and that let it be known that I'm a Wilder fan. As in, I think the heavyweight division is a far better place for his antics, his ability to wipe people out with that one nuclear bomb punch. I think that a thriving heavyweight division needs a Deontay Wilder, but he is near 40 now, and I struggle to see Parker managing to get through the full 12 rounds without sampling that power at some point. And when he does, it could be over very quickly if it happens. I would be surprised if Parker were to win the fight. I don't see much of a chance for him, to be honest.
And Horseman, quadruple four Horsey's being a bit cheeky here, saying, can you give us both your picks for a betting acca? Look, Horseman for Horsey, or quadruple for Horsey. I'm struggling with this name, I'm not going to lie. You're going to have to watch till the end to get all our picks. You've had our picks, I think, for Dubois Miller. I'm not sure, actually. I fancy Dubois to come through. I think Steve does too. But Steve just picked Wilder there. I'm picking Wilder as well. But if you want to pick for Joshua Wallin, you're going to have to wait till the end. And the undercard as well. If you watch till the end, Horsey, we will give you our picks for the other title fights on the show as well. That's it's not even on our schedule to talk about the undercard, but we will, just for you. Timo Hoffman, even if Wallin and Parker win, Saudi don't want stinkinators closing off Riyadh. Stinkinators. Revenge of the Stinkinators. Jay Sharp says, Joshua is needed as he's cleaner and can articulate better than most, i.e. Miller. I mean, I think Miller's pretty articulate. He's just not clean. Well, he's clean now. Don't sue us, anyone. But yeah, he hasn't got a clean history. Harry Clark says, anyone out the ring for so long is a proper joke. I hate it. Wish those fighters who are good need to stay active. I agree. I'm not really sure why Wilder's been out for so long. Maybe he's waiting for the sort of purse that he deserves. You know, he's had those grueling fights with Fury. Maybe he realizes now that to, truly safeguard his future and his family's future, it's worth waiting for those big paydays. And if that was his decision, he's kind of been vindicated by the truckloads of cash that are being chucked at him by Turkey Al Sheikh and that group over in Riyadh. Richard Cameron says Zorro had life and death with Dex Spellman. a blown-up light heavy in his fight before last. He struggled in his last fight too against an unknown Italian. It's a mismatch with Opataya. Got a lot of time for Zorro. You know, he's unbeaten. He's a Frank Warren fighter. It's clear that this is supposed to be more of a showcase for Opataya, who's looked great recently. I think if anything's annoyed me about it, he's following on from Jordan Thompson in getting what most people would consider an undeserving world title shot. Because we're so excited about Opataya and how good he is, I think we'd like to see him really tested at a higher level against someone like, you know, Breedish rematch or whoever else it might be at Cruiser. And yeah, so that is sad. Where are we? Horseman, Parker going to fight on the inside from all what he said, but Wilder sparring 28-minute rounds. Will this improve his stamina issues? Does he have proven stamina issues from past recent fights? I mean, I think Wilder looked good against Fury, and I think they were both tired by the end. But yeah, 28-minute rounds doesn't sound like a walk in the park, does it? I'm not sure how functional fitness that is. Thunder Road says, Eamon is not poorly. I saw him on the sidelines of Ben Shalom's Rec League match. Yeah, I'm not sure that's true. I mean, Eamon's actually, I don't know if he's back yet or not, but he's been in Amsterdam for the past 4 days. So I don't think you saw him in the sidelines of Ben Shalom's match anytime recently. Free Eamon Khan from Radio Raheem's basement, let the brother live, says DB Cooper 1. I don't think anyone wants to know exactly what is in Radio Raheem's basement. And Andre Newby, will Tyson Fury support Joe Parker? It depends what you mean. Do you mean will he be there? I think so. I don't think he'll be supporting Wilder. Steph D07, don't understand how so many think Parker will win against Wilder. What did he do against Massey to convince people? No, but he's had a fight since then, hasn't he, where he looked really good. Was it Junior Farr that he fought?
Fought Simon Keane, didn't he?
Simon Keane, that's it. I'm not sure why I'm thinking Junior Farr.
You're thinking of Faiga Opilu, who he fought in May.
Oh, maybe, yeah. Never heard of him, but yeah, I'm definitely thinking of him. Thunder Road says... up to 90 people watching, but only 4 likes. Stop slacking chat and hit the thumbs up. Thanks, Thunder Road. I don't know why people are so averse to giving us the thumbs up. Harry Clark, I like Triple D, but I reckon Miller will be too much for him. Hopefully I'm wrong. Throws way too many punches per round. Yeah, I mean, I certainly think he's a live underdog in that fight. Definitely better than 6-1 odds. Andre Newby, Anti-Joshua Public workout on Wednesday evening. Yeah, that's correct. We had the full fight week schedule through last night. Timo Hoffman, was no one in the IBF top 15 not available in the next few weeks? Why does Jai have to go out on the 23rd? And are they entitled to think that IBF has to be on board with their selfish interests? I mean, it's simple, isn't it, really? Jai Opataya wants that Saudi cash. Who wouldn't? And the fight was already made for that show. I can understand why that he wants the money and he's willing to give up the IBF belt because then he can challenge for it again afterwards. I don't blame him whatsoever. It's a short career and it can be a brutal career. It can be over in the blink of an eye. I don't blame him for going for the money. If they are saying the IBF shouldn't have stripped them, then there is a sense of entitlement there. Yeah, I mean, the IBF have always been really shit hot on their mandatories. And not always, not in the old Bob Lee days, but certainly recently since the takeover. Horseman Horsey says, lol, will Frank have an intimate evening meal with Eddie Hearn and chat over a candlelit meal? I mean, whatever your fantasies are, Horseman, I'm not sure they're aligned with ours, but yeah, it'd be nice to think that they're getting on. DB Cooper 1, how has Bricktop Frank Warren managed to be lead promoter when he only has Dubois on the card and got co-broadcast on TNT when AJ is meant to be the zone exclusive only? Lol, game changed indeed. Mate, he's an old fox. What can you do? You can't ever count out Frank Warren, the ultimate survivor in this boxing world. Give him his moment in the sun. Do you know what I mean? I was going to say I don't know how many he's got left, but compared to Bob Arum, he's a spring chicken, isn't he? Timo Hoffman, I don't blame Jai and I also don't blame the IBF, but plenty are. Yeah, I mean, let them, but I think both are well within their rights to do what they've done. Robert K. 1987's got a question. I'll put this to Steve because I was going to talk about this. Should Wilder retire if he loses against Parker? Steve, what do you think?
Depends on the manner of the defeat, maybe. It depends how he looks, how he feels. But yeah, he's definitely up in age. And if he's not able to knock him out and Parker outlasts him or something, he's going to have to consider retirement. As you said about the Saudi money, that's what he's been holding out for. So if he gets paid well, he could think that defeat might be the right opportunity to go out the door. But he's a proud man. He won't want to go out that way. So will he retire? Possibly. But would he want to retire? I can't see it, to be honest. But yeah, he should definitely consider it if he loses to Parker.
You sounded Irish then, Steve, for the first time. I know you lived there for ages, but it's the first time you actually sounded Irish. Said, he's a proud man. My son, John, he's a gay man now. That's my that's my best impression, unfortunately.
Oh dear.
Don't be offended, anyone in either part of Ireland. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think Wilder hasn't had that many punishing fights. Let's be honest. On the way up, before he won the world title, and even after he won the world title, in some cases, he was knocking people over early, and even the ones that went a few rounds, he wasn't getting bashed up, was he?
Mm.
I know that he's had those 2 fights with Fury, like the second and third, and he took a beating in the second fight, and it was a real grueling back and forth war, the third one. But I don't think he's got that many miles on the clock. He started late as well. So I'm not sure if there's still money to be made. And with the punch Wilder's got, there will always be money to be made. I think he could go on a bit, even if he suffers an upset against Parker. I think it'd do more for Parker than it would be to Wilder's detriment. Little Crypty Monster says AJ will regain the eye of the tiger. Little tiger emoji there. We like that. And become a 3-time heavyweight champion. Go AJ, my son. Go on, my son. Andre Newby, Anthony Joshua versus Lucas Bowen will happen soon. Does he mean Lucas Brown? I'm not sure. Horseman Horsey says, should Zhang be included on the Saudi show? I mean, it's not for me to decide who Turkey, Al Sheikh, and the lads should be having on their Riyadh season. What is this? We've had Riyadh season opener. Fury Usyk's going to close Riyadh season. Joshua Wilder's going to close Riyadh season. So what's this? Riyadh season midterm break? I don't know. It's the longest season in human history. But anyway, that's a bit of a tangential rant. It'd be nice to see Zhang on there, but how many top heavyweights do you want on one show, and who would he have fought? You know, you probably get him on because of the money involved. You can't pay for everyone, so you'd end up with him fighting a kind of mid-level British or Frank Warren heavyweight or something, you know, and then people would complain. So, you know, what do you want? Zhang Joyce 3, perhaps? I don't think anyone wants to see that, least of all Joyce. So, yeah, let's park Zhang for the minute and give him his own show. Maybe make him the main event. Maybe put him on in China. There's a wacky thought. Timo Hoffman, if Baby beats Dubois, see, everyone's calling him Baby now. Don't call me Baby. Don't call him Baby. Where does that leave him? Would assume Brixhop has options, potential Baby versus Joyce Zhang. Yeah, I mean, Joyce against Miller, as long as Miller gives a decent account of himself against Dubois, that could be sold. Zhang, not Zhang, and Saudi, not Saudi, Horseman. You would be an awful contestant on lingo. I'm not sure what lingo is, but I get the idea. That's from Conding. Little Crypty Monster, Big Baby is very, very lucky to be on this card, lol. I mean, he's talked himself into it more than anything, isn't it? I think they probably knew that Sparks would fly at the presser as well between him and AJ. Yeah. Just to alert you to our poll, which is obviously still going on, we've asked if Anthony Joshua, we haven't discussed his fight yet, if he were to lose against Otto Wallin on Saturday night in Riyadh, should Anthony Joshua retire? Let us know what you think. Vote yes or no. And please do give us a thumbs up because we've got a decent audience in this week's episode, but we're getting very few thumbs up. It's like you begrudge giving us credit for entertaining you. Come on, guys. Don't hate, appreciate. Conding says, I hope Dubois sparks Miller, but I've got a sneaky feeling Miller snops him late. I think they're the two options, really, aren't they? Dubois early or Miller late. Maybe that's a lazy assessment, but I think that's probably accurate. I think Miller will be too much for Triple D, says Harry Clark. Really hope that I'm wrong. Yeah, so will Frank Warren. I mean, Dubois had a couple of second chances. You don't want him to need another one, do you? Especially, he's still quite young, though, isn't he? Still learning. Be like what they always used to say about Hughie Fury, wasn't it? He's still learning. His man strength still coming through. No, that's what we got with Dubois. Well, that might be accurate with Dubois. He's had too many trainers for my liking. I'd like to see him settle with Don Charles now, and hopefully they can create something special, bit of a run together. Timo Hoffman, none of the main 4 heavyweights on the card can string sentences together. Miller's there for the pressers. That's a bit harsh. I think Otto Wallin's very articulate, very eloquent. So AJ is as well. You've not seen AJ on Louis Theroux? He speaks very well. Who are the other two? Yeah, Wilder. Parker's not bad either. I think you're being very, very harsh. And the only one I've kind of half insulted there is Wilder, which is probably a mistake, isn't it? Dubois just needs the confidence against Baby, says Little Crypty Monster. There's no chance that AJ will lose, says Harry Clark. We'll talk about AJ. Let me keep my powder dry for a second. Horseman, Conding, concentrate on the boxing, not my spelling. It's not a spelling test. It could become one, though, Horseman. So just be ready. Get your dictionary out. Although if you don't know how to spell it, a dictionary is probably not much use, is it? Timo Hoffman, Hughie's been ill, waiting for acne to clear. Yeah, Hughie Fury's coming back in, I think, February, Peter Fury said. I interviewed him last week. Interviews on the channel if you want to go and have a look. I actually interviewed, a bit of an aside here, but I actually interviewed both Fury brothers, and I don't mean Tommy and Tyson. I mean Peter and Big John on the same day last week. They didn't go up on the same day, the videos, but I did interview them both on the same day, which was an interesting one. They're both on the channel if you want to have a look. Very different personalities, those two brothers. So, but definitely both worth watching. No one talking about B-Volt this weekend. Does anyone give Lyndon a 1% chance even? I don't, says Conding. I'll give him more than a 1% chance. Yeah, I mean, Lyndon Arthur's a very good fighter, very talented. And, you know, his defeat, to Anthony Yard, I don't think anyone would have beaten Yard on that particular night. But Lyndon Arthur, if he's in the right mindset, I could see giving Dimitri Bivol problems, especially if the Bivol turns up, who fought Craig Richards, for example, and some of the other light heavyweights. But we shall see. I mean, I'm certainly not backing him to win, but I don't think he's only got a 1% chance. DB Cooper 1, I think the Ben Davison link up advice and whether AJ will show his old school aggression with less fear will be the most interesting thing to look out for. He's been a deer in the headlights since Ruiz. Very good point. We'll talk about that when we get onto the Joshua bit in a minute. Horseman, Conding, a big fan of lingo. Loads of time on his hands. Watches all lingo, deal or no deal all day. Yeah, but I like deal or no deal. I don't know what lingo is. I like a bit of Noel Edmonds. I used to like Crinkly Bottom. Do you remember that? Noel's House Party? Anyone out there who's old enough? Old like me. Steve, you know Noel's House Party, right?
I'm older than you, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Mr. Blobby. Gotta love a bit of Blobby. No, that was a bit of Bully, wasn't it? That's Bullseye. That's another old show. Dr. Anthony McCarthy. Oh, doctor. We've got a doctor in the house. Says Parker beats Wilder because the latter has been incredibly inactive and arguably has never beaten anyone of the level of Parker. That is true, but just because he's never done it doesn't mean he can't do it. And he did draw with Fury, which, whether you believe that result or not, it was a close fight. So it's an interesting one.
What did he say? Parker's never beaten anyone. What was that one?
No. Wilder has arguably never beaten anyone of the level of Parker. He thinks Parker's better than Luis Ortiz.
I'm going to say, what about Luis Ortiz?
Yeah, he's got the old Parker greater than symbol Ortiz. So, you know, I can't argue with the doctor. I'm sorry. I'm sure he's right. Zhang is injured and turned down the December 23rd card. Oh, yeah, Warren did say he was injured. I actually interviewed him and he said that. My memory's terrible. Acne, somewhat coincidence. No, not reading that. Timo Hoffman, we're not having any drug allegations on here. Don't want to get sued. Can't afford it. Not so close to Christmas. Horseman says, can I just state that Bivol has been discussed early, but it must have been when Linko was on. Brilliant. I love that. All right, so it's now time for what most people consider the main event. The main event of the evening. And that is Anthony Joshua. In his first fight training under Ben Davison. Crucial fight. Absolutely crucial. Now, we've got a poll up at the moment. Should he retire if he loses? Win or lose, it's still a crucial fight for him because if he does lose, he's not getting the Wilder fight in March, which has been apparently agreed now if they both get past their next fight. First fight under Ben Davison against the Southpaw. Doesn't tend to like Southpaws, AJ, or he hasn't in recent times. A tricky, awkward Southpaw in Otto Wallin, one that AJ has defeated in the amateurs twice, but has been on a great run of form. Went to Turkey, which is more or less away ground for his last fight, and pulled off a good win against a former cruiserweight champion, of course. And now coming here, he's wanted the Joshua fight for ages, desperate for it, in fact. He's got it. It's going to be the biggest fight of Otto Wallin's life, not the biggest fight of AJ's life. So motivation comes into question as well. Steve, what are your kind of initial thoughts about this one?
Yeah, I think it's the biggest fight of Wallin's career, and he's got to take the opportunity, really. I mean, first of all, it's great that all the fights appear to have held up on the card. When you see these cards sometimes on the box schedule,
we're not there yet.
Just about. It's amazing what the power of a guaranteed payday can do to keep fighters fit. So we're thankful for that on this fight week. It's up to Wallin, I think, how he approaches this fight. He's a naturally reserved boxer. We saw that against Gassiev, as you said, a fight that he got by on a split decision. But he can cause issues with his movement. There's no doubt about it. AJ hasn't beaten a southpaw since Charles Martin. We saw the issues that he had with Usyk over the two fights. In the second fight, he found a little remedy, a little key to the door, I felt, which he could maybe exploit against Wallin as well. If Wallin gets into a groove, I think he's going to be really hard to budge. And AJ's mindset is key. The old AJ would have come forward with confidence, I think. He would have got stuck straight into Wallin, put him on the back foot. This version is a little more apprehensive, a little more cautious. And someone mentioned about the training situation as well, about Ben Davison, who can now, for all the much maligned trainer, I can say he's trained two heavyweight world champions. I was talking to my friend Des, shout out to Des, and he seemed to think that the fact that Joshua's joined up with Davison could be a good thing because it kind of takes him back to basics instead of overthinking things. He could go back to the sort of basic things that served him so well earlier in his career. So if you can look at Valin and think of Gary Cornish or somebody like that, then maybe you'll be able to get him out of there. But as you said, if Valin gets into a groove and he feels the confidence starts to grow, I think it could become a very tricky night for Joshua.
Yeah, the Ben Davison thing's interesting. You say like you can say he trained 2 heavyweight world champions, although it should be noted that neither of them have reigned as heavyweight world champion while under his tutelage just yet. I think him and his team have done absolute wonders with Lee Wood, who's probably the most improved fighter in Britain at this point, and a genuine world-class fighter, and has become that genuine world-class operator under the tutelage of Ben Davison and with help from the likes of Barry Smith and Lee Wiley. I think it's a good link in that there's a team around him. You know, they've got strength and conditioning there. They've got video analysis. They prepare thoroughly. It's real diligent. It's a real different way from the majority of trainers in how they prepare, how much detail they go into. For someone like AJ, who is prone to overthinking and second guessing himself, having other people kind of give him the answers and say, you need to do this. Here's why. This is how you employ it. I think he'll appreciate that. It is local for him. He gets to stay local. He gets to, have a certain amount of home comforts, which might be reassuring for him as well. And I guess something that's been mentioned quite a lot is that Ben Davison was the man in Tyson Fury's corner when he fought Otto Wallin, which, although it wasn't Fury's greatest performance, and indeed he was given a lot of trouble by Wallin, it does mean Davison's got those 12 rounds under his belt studying him and also studying Wallin previously in the training camp and working out what he's good at, what he's not so good at. And maybe Fury didn't employ exactly what Davison and the team wanted him to do in that fight. But I don't think Wallin's changed a great deal. He may have improved, but I don't think his style's changed particularly from back then. So having that sort of intimate knowledge of Otto Wallin's style and just the southpaw in general, because AJ's maybe not comfortable necessarily against southpaws, I think that'll help a lot in the Ben Davison thing. Now, let me get back to the chat because I've seen loads of comments flying through. Where are we? DB Cooper 1, greetings from Radio Raheem's basement, Beverly Hills, California. He doesn't live in California at the moment. To the channel host and chat, I'm so excited for the boxing this weekend. Timo Hoffman, what can Lyndon do when his only punch to jab is only half as good as Bivol's jab? I'm not sure I agree with that. I don't think he can do much in this fight. I think he will lose to Bivol. However, I do think his jab is one of the best jabs in the division. Conding says Fury versus Joshua has to happen at some point, no matter what. Would be criminal if they never fight. Yeah, but it's a lot harder to build when they're coming off defeats. We might end up with it like Brooke Khan towards the end of their careers when it is just for bragging rights. We shall see. Little Crypty Monster, did you see Ben Davison's face when AJ was hitting the pads with him? Ben's hand was stung by AJ's power. I don't think many people would say that Tyson Fury is a bigger puncher than Anthony Joshua. It's just he's got a better all-round game, I think, would be the argument. Conding, Wallin struggled against Kamil Sokolovsky. I predict the old AJ returns and stops Otto within 3 rounds. I don't think you can judge him based on a fight against Kamil Sokolovsky a long time ago. I think he's had a few quality wins since then, especially the most recent one where he went out to Turkey and did it against the odds. So, yeah, I think that's a little unfair. My very happy day says AJ's fighting stiffs now. He is washed up, to be honest, no heart. I don't think Otto Wallin's is stiff. I think that's very much underselling him. I think the wins on his record compare with many of the fringe contenders towards the back end of the top 10. So, yeah, I think that's a little unfair, or more than a little. Horseman says, Ben Davison aiming his training for an absolute smash and grab against Otto over within 3 rounds. Easy for me to say. Only way to beat Otto both mentally and physically. Yeah, I can understand why that would be the case, but you don't want to drum that into AJ because then what if he doesn't manage to get him out of there in the first few rounds? Is there a plan B? Will AJ confidence take a knock? Timo Hoffman, Ben will be filling AJ's head with bullshit diagrams and heat maps, confusing him more. What about Venn diagrams? Let's not forget those. Ed Nelson, Otto has to be taken serious as one slip up could cost his complete future. Yeah, well, that's what we kind of said in the poll that, this could be it for AJ. He can afford to lose to the likes of Usyk, but I don't think he can afford to lose to an Otto Wallin at this point in his career. DB Cooper 1, AJ going to see a southpaw in Wallin and immediately revert back to cautious boxing because of PTSD from the Usyk fights. He'll stand there boxing whilst being jabbed with a bashed face before he KOs Otto. So you see a Hellenius-like performance, I see. Little Crypty Monster, can you tell I'm Team AJ? Lol, we can tell. Andre Newby, Anthony Joshua is with Ben Davis now. What, the Tottenham right back? Does he still play for Tottenham? Ben Davis, probably not. And Ben Davis used to train Tyson Fury before that. Yes, we just talked about that. Andre Newby, I probably should have read that a bit earlier. Conding, Ben Davison, not Ben Davis. Thanks, Conding. Not the Tottenham player, if he even still plays for Tottenham. My football knowledge is worse than my boxing knowledge. DB Cooper 1, agreed. Ben Davison suits AJ to a T, read game plans, analysis, etc. Derek James admits himself he's hardly ever seen AJ box, never mind the wider heavyweight division. James is like a PT with 3-hour slots. Whew. Derek James catching strays. Horseman, when you watch AJ against Usyk both times for a heavyweight, he boxed actually quite well against Usyk. I agree, especially in the second fight, which would be enough to beat Otto Wallin. Apologies for any spelling mistakes. I think just the last one. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. That performance he put on against Usyk the second time might be enough to beat Wallin, but I think Wallin's going to be incredibly motivated for this. AJ's going to make a statement this weekend, folks. There's little Crypty Monster who just outed himself as an AJ fan boy. Conding, Horseman, I really did. Oh no, we're not getting involved in that spat. Andre Newby, Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury is a monster fight, and they should make a movie on DAZN Netflix time. My very happy day. No one cares about AJ. I don't know. Still does pretty good figures for AJ related stuff on our channel. Even if he fights Wilder someday, he loses often. Andre Newby, Usyk versus Tyson Fury is in February the 17th. Yeah, we know. We're going to be talking a little bit about that in the last quarter of the show. Yeah, so Steve, how much do you think motivation plays a part in this one? Because as I've alluded to there, for Anthony Joshua, this is a semi-final to get to Wilder. It's the latest stage in a rebuilding job under the latest trainer that's involved in Ben Davidson. Time will tell if that ends up being a long-term partnership. For Otto Wallin, this kind of is his world title fight. You know, he's the IBF number 1, right? So, IBF number 2. So he's in line when Tyson Fury is stripped or vacates the IBF belt. Not Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk. I'm getting ahead of myself. Vacates or is stripped of the IBF belt. He's in line to fight Hrgovic for a vacant world title in what you would consider a winnable fight for Otto Wallin against Hrgovic. He's turned that down, and I don't think it is just for the Saudi money. I think he's wanted the Joshua fight for a long time. And he recognises that upsetting Joshua will mean a lot more for his career, his profile, his earning potential than winning a vacant world title that not everyone would respect against Filip Hrgovic. Do you think motivation comparison between Joshua and Wallin will play a factor in this fight?
Yeah, I think motivation is a key word, actually, overall. Like you said, they've seen something in Joshua. They fancy they're going to get him at the right time, in the right place. The payday in Saudi as well helps. That is the motivation is huge for Val. And he cannot allow it to slip away the way he did, arguably, in the Fury fight. I know there was mitigating factors there, but he has to take this opportunity now. Key motivation for him. As for AJ, what motivates him? Is he dead set on getting the Wilder fight? Does he really want it? We've been told for 6 years now this fight's going to happen. Is he fed up like everybody else waiting for it? Is he motivated by money? Has he made enough already? Does he want to enhance his legacy? Does he look at the 2 Usyk fights and say, I tried, I came up short? What motivates the respective fighters? When it comes to motivation, it's all on Wallin's side as far as I'm concerned, which makes him a dangerous proposition. AJ can't afford to take his eye off the ball on this one whatsoever, because that's when Wallin is going to slip in. Nice trainer as well, Wallin's got. I think Joey Gamache behind the scenes. He'll have a game plan all made up for him as well. So their respective motivations will play a key part, I think, as the fight starts to progress on Saturday.
And not only is he a good trainer, Joey Gamache, and a former really good fighter, of course, but he's also been with Otto Wallin for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And they know each other incredibly well. He'll trust him in the corner. If things are going against AJ in the corner, 4 or 5 rounds in, how much is he going to rely, trust, and listen to what Ben Davison says? Not because there's anything wrong with Ben Davison. I'm not one of those boxer-sized Ben critics. Do you know what I mean? I think Ben Davison's a very, very good trainer. I think he's done wonders with Leewood and with some other fighters. But my point is, if you've only worked with this guy for 6 months, even if you've known him kind of to a certain level before that, how much are you going to listen and take on board what he's saying? Not because you think he's not a good trainer or he doesn't know what he's talking about, but just because you haven't got that bond. It hasn't grown in 6 weeks. Not
Yeah.
not to that extent.
But from the trainer's perspective as well, do you know what buttons to press? Right, we need
Yeah.
to put a firework up his backside, or do we need to give him calm instructional advice? When you've been with a fighter for a long time, you kind of know which buttons to press at the right times. But as you said, when that relationship hasn't been nurtured yet, you could be giving him a complete bollocking, and maybe that's the last thing in the world they need in the corner.
Yeah. Well, exactly. It's very tough. I think that's why a lot of people are saying, well, AJ's just going to get him out of there in 2 or 3 because it needs to be that way before they start questioning each other and they're not sure what to do and that partnership's still fresh and new. Um, it'll be interesting because for Ben Davison, I'm sure he's highly motivated because for him, this is a chance to show he can be a technical and tactical accomplished trainer on the world stage once again with the heavyweight division, but also to kind of audition for the job permanently in the future as AJ's head coach. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But yeah, I mean, if I was forced to pick now, I think I'd probably still go for AJ simply because I think even if Otto Wallin manages to outbox him or outwork him in most of the rounds and it goes to points, I can't see with the Wilder fight at stake in Riyadh season as well. I can't see him getting the decision if it's at all close. And I don't see Wallin dominating Joshua to the point that he wins clearly or he stops him. So I'd go for Joshua on a tight, maybe controversial points decision. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, just to keep things nice and boring on this Monday evening, I'm thinking exactly the same as you, to be honest. I think Valen's going to have to do something absolutely spectacular if he's going to get the win. If it's any way close indeed, with everything riding on it, it's AJ on points for me. I can't see any other. Well, I mean, I can see other conclusions, obviously, but yeah, that's the safe bet. I would agree.
So SJ says if AJ has PTSD, wait till Wilder comes. He's going to shit himself, basically. I believe is what that emoji means. Timo Hoffman, there's a rematch clause for AJ Wallin. Do we know that the rematch is happening in Saudi? I don't know, but there is definitely a rematch clause, and I would imagine it'd be AJ Wallin 2 on that date that's been reserved for the Wilder fight, if that's the case. Little Crypty Monster says, I watch Rocky movies to get motivated. Andre Newby, Andy Ruiz ducked Dillian White and said it was a fake contract. I remember that time. Not sure I remember that, but it doesn't sound beyond the realms of possibility in this crazy sport. Rayan Khan 97 says if Wilder wins by KO, people will say only won because of his power, but AJ just beat Hellenius because of his power. Why do people be hating on Wilder so hard? Why can't they accept he is a warrior? Because I think even to the untrained eye, AJ is a more complete fighter than Deontay Wilder, but doesn't have the same level of punch power. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying Wilder relies on his power because he doesn't spend a lot of time trying to win fights on points. I think that's just the way it is. SJ says AJ is likely to lose seeing Wilder in the crowd. Yeah, I mean, Wilder might just leave after his fight, go and celebrate if he's won. You know, he might decide to use some of that trouser full of Saudi cash. AJ quit versus Butterbean when he was supposed to fight Wilder. He's running away faster than Forrest Gump. Says SJ. Not sure about that one. I do like a Forrest Gump reference though. Great film. Lucent Index says heavyweights have to be mandated to fight twice per year. We all want this. The sport needs this. If you lose, you can come back making you more hungry to gain the title unless it's just money. Yeah, but it's hard to put that burden on the fighters, isn't it? Because it's not up to them how often they fight. It's often up to the promoters. I agree. They should fight like 6 times a year. It's not like they've got to make weight. DB Cooper 1 says, was Eamon Khan, he spelled it wrong, but we'll let him off, on his stag do in Amsterdam. Wild geezer, that one, I tell you. Not as far as I'm aware. I'm not saying it didn't get wild, but I don't think he was on a stag do. If he was and I wasn't invited, I'll shed a few tears privately. Anthony Joshua versus Usyk will not happen again, says Andre Newby. I mean, does anyone want to see it again? Could you sell it? Thunder Road, can we give a moment to admire the work Bam Rodriguez did over the weekend? Sonny's face would look the same if he sees Danny again. Brilliant. I mean, it was cathartic for me, of course. You know, I can't. Bam's done the job for me, hasn't he? I can take a certain amount of pleasure for that. But reputationally, Sonny's come out of it pretty well, hasn't he? You know, he gave his all, tried to trade, even though that's not his natural style, and just lost to someone who looks like a pound for pound star. I'll give him full credit. You know, whatever happened in the past is in the past. There's been, you know, we've spoken since and stuff. It's not like some great feud, unfortunately. But yeah, I 100% agree, Thunder Road. If it was me in there on that night, mate, he wouldn't have got as far as he did. Would have been over in round 3, mate. I'm joking, obviously. Round 2. Timo Hoffman says, Eddie said AJ has picked Wallin out for this fight, but rankings-wise, AJ has more to gain beating Wallin than the other way around. Yeah, I mean, 100%. You know, he gets straight back in an IBF mandatory slot in what he'd consider a winnable fight against Hrgovic. I don't know if the Wilder fight's signed or if it's just agreed, but if it's only agreed, then having a Hrgovic fight for a world title is a possible other option to leverage against Wilder in terms of agreeing the things they want to agree, dates, purses, and so on. Not a bad thing to have in your back pocket, is it? Rayan Khan, why did AJ get beat up by Helenius before his power got him out of jail? And Wilder had one of the easiest rounds of his life before he landed a half decent right hand and won. One of the one of the easiest rounds of his life. One round. We're judging Wilder's boxing skills on one round. Not sure that's completely fair. And AJ hasn't looked great recently. There's no doubt about that. And Helenius isn't a bad technical boxer, which Wilder may have found out if he'd have got past the first round. Tyson could knock out the frightened AJ. Mike Tyson says my very happy day. So we've done the day of reckoning and we've given our predictions. Oh, actually, let's, as we promised, Halsey for his ACCA, we have to give our predictions for the other two world title fights. So Jai Opatea, I expect to stop Ellis Zorro. Unfortunately, I do really like Ellis Zorro. And Dimitri Bivol, I would say probably a corner retirement against Lyndon Arthur. So you could put that down as a stoppage on your ACCA if you want to take your financial future in my hands. Steve, what about you for those two?
Yeah, Opataya stoppage win within the first 6 rounds, I would say. Arthur, I think it might make it to the end. I liked the Bivol that got rid of Sullivan Barrera back in the day, that ruthless
Yeah.
streak in the last round. But against the guys we mentioned, Richard, Salamov, Valera, these kind of characters, he is happy to coast along and then leave his best performances for the best opponents. So I think Arthur, on that basis, might make it to the final bell and to points decision for Bivol.
Okay, so before we close out the hour, we've talked about Day of Reckoning, but there's another big Saudi show coming up on February the 17th, which will hopefully, I mean, Frank Warren says it's definitely going ahead as long as no one gets injured in camp. The undisputed fight, long awaited, between Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk. Mod Mother, Quiver, if you can hear us, please do both give us the results of the poll on AJ and also put up the last headline for this week's episode. And that was, of course, John Fury related because I had the opportunity. Oh, we've got the poll results first. So let's do that. Should Joshua retire if he loses to Otto Wallin on Saturday? No, 54%. Yes, 45%. So people still see some value in Joshua continuing his career, even if he suffers that upset, which is interesting. But yeah, the latest headline, Mod Mother Queever's on it today. Well done. No sitting in the corner this week. Says, Big John Furious! Exclamation mark with the old, spelling of furious. Sorry, couldn't resist. Tabloid. Well, I haven't got a tabloid background, but you'd think I had. Yeah, Big John Furious. So I interviewed John Fury, courtesy of freebets.com last week. They don't pay us any extra. They don't pay us anything, actually. I would say they definitely don't pay us any extra for that mention. But yeah, Big John Fury was raging. He was furious because he wasn't happy or isn't happy with the apparent state of his son's training camp, Tyson Fury's training camp. That is not Tommy's because he trains Tommy, so that wouldn't make any sense. Yeah, he said it was a circus, the training camp. He said they're full of backslappers who Fury will not listen to. He says Fury won't even listen, Tyson, that is, won't even listen to him at the moment. He didn't have many kind words for Sugar Hill Stewart, who he feels is trying to turn Fury into a banger when he's more of a clever boxer. He just basically said if things don't change in that Tyson Fury camp, there's a decent chance that Fury will lose to Alexander Usyk. He said he can beat him at 75%, but he can't beat him at half measure, presumably 50%. So what percentage, Steve, do you think Tyson Fury will need to beat Usyk? We talking 66, 67? What's your view?
I don't know, well up into the 70s or even 80s, I would say. I mean, Usyk's a very, very good boxer. You can't go in half measures. We saw when Fury's taken his eye off the ball in the past, not even the Ngannou fight, even way back into the Belfast fights against the likes of Nikolai Further and that. You've got to be on the ball against someone of Usyk's caliber. And I'm not sure of exact percentages, but I'm going to agree with John Fury for once on this one.
Yeah.
He needs to get rid of the back slappers. We've seen these guys, obviously mentioning no names in particular, but back in the day, the likes of your Riddick Bows and even your Tysons, people following around camp who maybe haven't got specific jobs or any reasons to be there. So yeah, I'm in agreement with John Fury. Get rid of the wasters, get on it absolutely, and do the job against Alexander Usyk. You've got to have your eye on the ball and be on focused against someone of this caliber on February the 17th.
DB Cooper one says Big John Fury should pay his council tax and leave his son alone. I didn't think it was his council tax. Wasn't it some business rates thing? Wasn't it Tyson rather than
Land
John
or something?
as well?
Yeah, I think so.
It was like Tyson and one of his brothers. They got some land from. They thought they'd sold it to the council, but it hadn't gone through or something, so they stopped paying the business rates or something like that. I did read it in the Metro, but it's completely gone out of my head. He's never liked Sugar Hill style, but shut up when he started KOing people. He's piped up again. SJ says John Fury taking his shirt off and going red face, angry hockey dad. No, we're back to talking about Joseph Parker there, John Rose, but we've moved on from him. Not saying he's lost already, but we have moved on from him for this episode. John Fury, he did seem genuinely angry because I know a few people have suggested he's saying all this stuff about Fury because he previously said about Fury's training camp being in decline. And he made a point in our interview of saying, I was misquoted for clickbait. I never said Tyson himself was in decline. It's the people around him, the training camp, his physical condition. But a lot of people have said that John Fury's creating kind of a facade around the Usyk fight to lull the Usyk camp into a false sense of security. That he's saying, Tyson's looking rubbish, this, that, and the other, because then they'll take it easier or whatever it might be. And there may be some truth in that, but I'm not sure he's quite that cunning, John Fury. I think he's an emotional man. He wears his heart on his sleeve. I think he says what's on his mind. And as someone just pointed out in the chat, he's never been a massive fan of Sugar Hill's style. So I think you can more or less rule that out and that he does have genuine concerns. But I guess what we're trying to work out is whether those concerns are valid. And Steve, you said it's time to get rid of the backslappers. You agree with John on that point. But do you consider Sugar Hill one of those? Is Sugar Hill, an employee who, as John Fury kind of implied, is there for the money and will not tell Tyson what to do, will not make him knuckle down?
Well, I suppose it's down to results, isn't it? Proof is in the pudding and all cliches of that nature. If he was looking terrible and losing fights, then maybe the accusation could be, held up. But until that point happens, then no, I'd say Sugar Hill's doing a pretty good job. We all know his background, his pedigree, the Emmanuel Stewart, the Kronk connections. This is a guy who's been in boxing a long time. He knows what he's doing. But then again, what John's saying could well be accurate. But if he goes and loses to Usyk, then we can all look back in hindsight and say Big John had a point. But at the moment, the results are bearing themselves out. So leave Sugar Hill alone, I say.
So get rid of backslappers, but leave Sugar Hill alone.
Yeah.
Steve Wellings has spoken, ladies and gents. Kyoshi says John Fury is bitter because he isn't in charge of the camp. The man is a control freak and loves being the center of attention. I should point out that he did insist in the interview, and you can take it at face value or not, that he has no intention or desire to be Tyson's trainer. DB Cooper, get John Fury a Range Rover or Volvo, and he's basically an overbearing soccer mom, as the Yanks would say. Where are we? Nevin Pajkic, again, probably not the real one, similar to Timo Hoffman. I actually saw Fury against Pajkic. I'm not sure if it was live or not, though. Where does he say? Don't know how seriously anyone in boxing takes John for him to sway one way or the other. Yeah, I suppose the Usyk. I don't know. I think if you're Usyk and you look at that, you see a certain amount of dissension in the Fury camp, at least. Thunder Road tells us that Prince Patel is fighting for the IBO bantamweight title tomorrow in Accra, Ghana. I hope Danny covers the result in one of his videos. Isn't this the second time he's gone for the IBO bantamweight title? Didn't he lose before? He was up against someone. It looked like a winnable fight. It was when he was on his world tour.
He lost to Michel Banquez, I think it was, on the Amir Khan Billy Dib undercard.
Yeah, because I remember watching the fight. It was quite a messy fight.
Yeah.
Okay. Jay Sharp says Manny Stewart was great, but hard to carry that torch. Yeah, I mean, I think Sugar Hill has had success with other fighters. Who was it, Ergashev that he was working with?
Well,
more recently, and previous to that, obviously, what's his name? The former world champion, used to be a pimp. Like Canadian, like French Canadian. Oh, God, it's gone out of my head.
Oh, Adonis Stevenson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope I haven't said anything that's going to get us in legal trouble. I'm pretty sure he was arrested for like getting women for solicitation and stuff like that. Pimping, basically, in his distant past.
Yeah.
DB Cooper, Prince Patel versus Isaac Lowe is bigger than Fury Usyk. Don't at me. I won't at you, but I hope you'd provide the interpreter. And that's just for Isaac, not for Prince Patel. Nothing racist here. But yeah, Isaac Lowe, very hard to interpret on. I suppose that's mostly on social media, though. When you talk to him, he's not so bad. Little Crypty Monster of Peter Fury and Tyson Fury fallen out. They never hardly talk about each other these days. I'm not sure if they've fallen out, but I don't think relations are good. I think, yeah, I don't know if there's a relationship there, is probably all I can say about that. Nevin Pikich is asking for a 2-time. not today, Nevin. Jay Sharp, lol, lol. That's all he's got to say. Maybe that's a reflection on the show in general. I'm not sure. But yeah, so we really appreciate you all watching. We've kind of come to the end of our line for this week. We'll be back next week. I can't tell you at the moment if Steve Wellings will be joining us once again, making it 4 out of 4. But we'll be lucky to have him if that does happen. But yeah, really appreciate you all watching. Please do add to the thumbs up, as Thunder Road has told you many times. You shouldn't have to keep telling you, should he? And we'll be back next week, looking back on the Day of Reckoning, and perhaps looking ahead to Christmas. Oh no, next week is Christmas Day. We will not be here next Monday. Breaking news, everyone. I refuse to work on Christmas Day, even though I'm not particularly religious. I will be stuffing my face with food. So yeah, even by this time as well, I'll still be eating the old turkey sandwiches. But yeah, so we won't be here next week. We will return, I would imagine, the week after that's New Year's Day. Keep an eye on our social channels. I don't know if we'll do an episode New Year's Day. We might do a review of the year episode on New Year's Day, if we think people are going to be sufficiently bored of spending time with their family by then, ready to kill their distant cousins and so on. Then perhaps we'll do an episode on New Year's Day. But yeah, really appreciate you watching. Hit the like button. If you're watching this on playback, please do comment because you've missed your chance for the live chat. And we will see you all probably in 2 weeks' time. Steve, as is customary, you get the closing remarks.
Thanks very much for having me on. Hopefully, Eamon will be back. If not next week, as we've discovered, but the week after. But yeah, I've enjoyed coming along. 3 out of 3, undefeated 3-0. So hopefully, return again in the future.
Great stuff. Thanks, everyone. Take care.